So, can you guess where I am? Yes, I'm at an aviation museum, but not just any aviation museum. This place is called Wings, the Wings Aviation Museum. In fact, it's a museum of remembrance, but I'm going to tell you more about that. But the reason I'm here is my lifelong passion about anything that flies and World War II. And I guess it came from, you're probably wondering why I'm holding this. This is my brother's Air Force coat. And I'll never forget the day my beloved brother, may he rest in peace, came home in full uniform as a member of a B-52 bomber crew. I'll never forget it, and I was so proud of him. And that's really what this museum is about. It's not only about planes and things that fly, but it's about the people who flew them and stories of heroism, these World War II pilots, some of whom were lost, some of whom survived, and the stories of their heroism is contained, including the artifacts of the planes that have been unearthed over these many years. So shall we have a look? You ready? Okay, let's go. Wow, I mean, you can tell by the look on my face that this place is absolutely unbelievable, with countless artifacts from all over the globe of aircraft and the stories of the flyers behind them. The people at Wings couldn't have been more accommodating to me and kinder. In fact, they've arranged my very own tour guide, and I can't wait to meet him. Hello, George.
Hello there.
How are you? Terrific. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So pleased to meet you. And tell me, so George, you're one of the engineers here. Tell me
I'm
about
one of
yourself.
the volunteers here. And I happen to be an engineer, so I'm involved in the restoration projects you can hear going on in the background.
Fantastic. And so tell me about this place.
The museum was founded by two brothers, Daniel and Kevin Hunt. They had a holiday in East Anglia many years ago when they were teenagers, young boys, and they had a holiday near an old airfield, and they wandered across an old airfield and found a lot of artifacts there, and that started their interest, and that started a collection which just grew and grew, and it's still growing. And what's special about it? It's a tribute to those people who fought. Many lost their lives during the Second World War. It's aviation, and all my life has been spent in aviation as an aircraft engineer, and it's just a tribute to all those people, many people that died.
Can you give me a tour?
Yes, certainly.
Let's do it. This is utterly breathtaking because I'm in the fuselage where young men prepared, collecting their thoughts before they stood up, entered the doorway, and jumped into the fields of France. It's just unbelievable. I'm so excited to be in this cockpit. Tell me about this plane.
Well, it's a C-47 Douglas Dakota built in the United States by the Douglas Aircraft Company during the war. There were about 20,000 of these built and used by the military, and it went on to be used up until the 1970s with various airlines and various air forces. The controls of this airplane is the same as any other airplane. You have this control, which is controlling your ailerons, so it's an instinctive control. So if the pilot was to turn this wheel to the left, the aircraft would bank to the left. Turn it to the right, it would bank to the right. Pilot pulls it back towards his tummy, the nose would come up. Push it forward, the nose would go down. So and you have two pedals down here, and they would steer it rather like a steering wheel on a car.
Can you tell me about the history of this particular plane? What happened on this aircraft?
This aircraft saw service with the Royal Air Force during the war. After the war, it went to Air France. After that, it was when it was taken out of service, it was acquired by a film studio. This cockpit was used in the James Bond film Quantum of Solace. The majority of the aircraft was used in Band of Brothers, but that's its history, and we acquired it from the film company. They gave it to the museum.
It's a real treasure.
It is.
Well, after that exhilarating experience, George is going to take me to an exhibit that tells a more somber story of the heroism and heartache of a bomber crew?
This is an American medium bomber, a B-25 Mitchell, and this particular aircraft was based in the Aleutian Islands. They had a bombing mission to bomb the Japanese in the Kuril Islands, which are now part of Russia. And on their way to their target, they actually lost sight of where they were because they were in cloud. They descended the aircraft to come out of the cloud, and as they descended, they came down so low that this propeller on this engine actually struck the sea. The pilot managed to recover and get the aircraft straight and level again, by which time they could see their target ahead, and they pressed on their attack. And as they came in, they were shot at by the Japanese. And if you can see, the bullets have gone here at an angle. You can see the angle from the ground, and the aircraft crashed. And this guy, who was the captain, and this guy was the co-pilot, were beaten up badly by the Japanese. Apparently, this captain was beaten so badly you could see his teeth through the side of his face. That's the brutality that they suffered. The crew are now prisoners of war of the Japanese, and 5 of them, that was everybody except for the co-pilot, was put on a ship and sent down to Japan to work as slave labour in the coal mines. This guy, the co-pilot, was going to follow on another transport down to Japan. Unfortunately, the transport that the 5 were on was sunk by the Americans, and these guys have no known grave.
Oh my.
The only reason we know the story is because the co-pilot survived and told the story. And this is our tribute to them.
This wonderful place of remembering these people, the physicality, these artifacts really have a powerful story to be told.
That's what the museum is all about. And I'll show you the map where all this happened. So these are the Aleutian, this is Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, this is Manchuria, Japan, and these are the Kuril Islands. And the aircraft was flying from Attu to bomb Shamsu in the Kurils. And this is where they were shot down.
Amazing. Amazing.
And that's a true story.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And now we're on our way to what George describes as his favorite exhibit. I can't wait to hear the story behind this one.
Okay, we've now arrived at my favourite exhibits in the museum.
Told you so.
These 3 Rolls-Royce Merlin engines. These came from a Second World War Halifax bomber, which was shot down over Hamburg on the 27th of July 1943. The aircraft was on a bombing raid, and as it was dropping its bombs, it got separated from the main bomber stream and was attacked by a German night fighter and was shot down. It crashed just outside Hamburg near a small village, and it lay there for 65 years. They didn't know who the crew were, so they contacted us at Wings Museum, and we sent one of our guys up to the Public Records Office at Kew. We found out the names of the crew, and we told the Germans, and the bodies were laid to rest in a German graveyard. And then we thought no more of it. And a couple of months later, the German authorities phoned us and said, look, we've got 4 engines which we don't want. Would you like them for your museum? And we do run it occasionally as a tribute to these 7 crew.
I'm taken by this, but in particular, as I'm just looking at the sign here, that the age of the pilot.
The pilot of the aircraft, Sergeant Gordon Harry Brown, was aged 19.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I see why it is your favorite.
Yeah. And it was actually the first project I worked on, was stripping that engine down when I joined the museum 11 years ago. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now I see why it means so much to you.
Yes, it does.
After that magnificent story, I decided to have a wander myself. And what I realized and discovered with these wonderful individual stories. And here are two that I found that really struck home to me. So this is one of my favorite parts, actually, because this is actually the wreckage that was unearthed of a flyer by the name of Lieutenant Ernest Johnson, who wasn't a fighter pilot. He was on a reconnaissance mission taking photographs. And after photographing the coast of France in preparation for Normandy, he experienced engine trouble. Fortunately, he bailed out, and of course the plane crashed, and you see the wreckage of the aircraft, including, look at this, the flying, the yoke of how we control the aircraft. This is the plane itself. It's called a P-38 Lightning, quite an extraordinary plane. But what's really extraordinary and heartbreaking is Lieutenant Johnson got back in aircraft and was later killed in action about 6 months later. But you know something? If you take this one pilot who was actually on reconnaissance, there was another reconnaissance pilot just over here. So this is actually a German flyer. You know, I think it was Einstein who said that it's old men that plan the wars, but it's the young men who fight them. And the philosophy of the Remembrance Museum that we're here is in honor of everyone who participated and everyone who flew in support of what they believed. And here is Unterofficer Bachberger who flew, and you can see the remnants of his aircraft, including even the remnants of his uniform. He also was on a reconnaissance mission, and this whole wreckage was unearthed in 1996. And much like Lieutenant Johnson, he was buried with full military honors. So you can imagine how the families would have felt. You know, Churchill spoke of the individual flyer. Every morn brought forth a noble chance, and every chance brought forth a noble night. And that's what this place does. It celebrates and honors these individuals, like the two women who flew 18 missions in a day, or Lieutenant Johnson, who bailed out of one plane only to fly another one at another point in time. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I've loved being here in the celebration of these wonderful people. Thanks for coming.